start. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I hope you're enjoying the music in the background. Thank you. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي واجعلني وزيرا من أهلي هارون أخي أشد به أزري وأشركه في أمري كي نسبحك كثيرا ونذكرك كثيرا إنك كنت بنا بصيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum as well. Hope you're all doing good. So inshallah, I hope you're enjoying your beautiful Saturday morning. So we're going to continue inshallah with our discussion. As you can see, we kind of were in the middle of the 12th aspect of our discussion on the 10th word, which is about the resurrection and the human need for resurrection. And it's interesting how the author does not kind of threatens anyone in this chapter that you need, hey, if you don't do this, you're going to go into, on hereafter, a life in hereafter. But he's more bringing us to the point that, look, whatever you see, look at the signs. If you recall the verse that this author is commenting on, it starts with look, then at the signs of God's mercy, how he gives life to the earth after its death. So one has to look at the signs and see that those signs point to somebody taking care of this, which is what God's mercy is, something that needs to be felt, how he gives life to the earth after its death. The same God is the one who will return people to life after death. He has power over all things. This is chapter 30, verse 50. Surah Rum, chapter 30, verse 50. So the same God is the one who will return people to life after death. He has power over all things. So inshallah, we'll continue as we move along in this chapter. So basically, I'll start reading and we'll see how it goes. If you have any comments or suggestions, I would welcome them as well. And this aspect was, again, as kind of initially I started saying that one has to realize by looking at the signs that they're there for a purpose. Your existence here is not randomly happening, but is why is one given existence? Why is one given life? And the transitoriness that you experience, the transience in this world, there's a reason. There must be a reason for it. Somebody shows the signs show that there must be some reason why I'm here. I cannot just be here just to live for a temporary world, because as a human, that's not satisfactory to me. So how come all these signs and that what we've been studying in these 12 aspects, how the author is putting it, hey, look at it, all these things that you are engaging with, your experiences, they are a place where you see the signs, you enjoy, but these are a place, like the last one we spoke about was the place of instruction. And it said, we spoke about a little bit about the market, how it's like a market. You're doing not the trade that you do in the market, but with all the human senses, your experiences you go through, it all becomes part of your living experiences, living transactions. So recognizing whoever is the merciful one, whoever is giving you this existence and that who's taking care of you in this way, is instructing you, is basically giving you the opportunity to acknowledge him with all these thoughts and experiences, life situations, circumstances. For example, somebody takes a job, and is it something that's useless? That anybody who goes to work or goes to school goes there for a particular reason. So there is there's a, yeah, so there was some beautiful music happening. So please, I hope you enjoyed that as well. Yeah. So the purpose has to be there. And in school, if you don't follow whatever these instructions, whatever is happening, you realize that your transactions, you fail in those transactions. But as a normal working student, with the mindset of a student that, hey, I'm here for a purpose, I'm here to learn, so I can move on in my life. With that, you don't waste your time. You become like a student that is fulfilling that purpose. So this life is like becoming that good student who is fulfilling their purpose in life. So let's continue on, and we'll start from here. Beware. Beware, do not imagine that the proofs of the transfer of creation from one realm to another are restricted to these 12. So these 12 aspects that we've been discussing so far. Now the author is saying, hey, just don't imagine these proofs of that there should be another creation only based on these 12. This is just a way for the human being to be in tune with their own human side. There are indications and proofs beyond counting and enumeration. So there are many indications and proofs beyond counting and enumeration. But the thing is, we don't really get to sit down and think about many of these things. And so this author gives us a way, hey, this is how I feel. Look in your own human side. Do you feel the same way? Do you want that this universe is fine for you, and are you satisfied with a temporary life? No, but you got to move on. So innumerable signs and evidences that men will be taken from this temporary hospice and sent to the eternal seat of rule of all creation. Now, I will show one proof in particular that is stronger than all the 12 aspects taken together. Come now, look in the midst of the great assembly, visible in the distance, the same noble commander whom we previously saw on the island, adorned with numerous decorations, is making an announcement. Look in the midst of the great assembly, visible in the distance, the same noble commander whom we previously saw on the island, adorned with numerous decorations, is making an announcement. Let us go and listen. See that luminous and most noble commander is conveying a supreme edict, beautifully inscribed. He says, prepare yourselves, you will go to another and permanent realm. So this most noble commander says, prepare yourselves, you will go to another and permanent realm. A realm such that this one will appear as a dungeon by comparison. Interesting statement by this noble commander. So whatever you're observing in the universe, now this commander who comes in and tells you the same thing, that this place is a temporary, but there's some good news as well within that commander's words that, whatever you're enjoying here, this will seem as something very temporary, as a dungeon, as he says, by comparison, because you're going to some eternal kind of place. The end goal, that is what the human end goal is. So our lives must be arranged and organized according to what the end goal is. But let's continue on. You will go to the seat of rule of our king, and there receive his compassion and his bounty. If you heed this edict well and obey it, but if you rebel and disobey it, you will be cast into awesome dungeons. Such is the message that he conveys. So if one heeds the edict or whatever the message or the way of living and obeys it according to what your human feelings are guiding you, the way they are guiding you, you will go to the seat of rule of our king, the one who gave you all those senses, all that those experiences, all those enjoyment, those pleasures. And if you heed this edict well and obey it, so you will go there. But if you rebel and disobey it, you will be cast into awesome dungeons. So human beings have a choice. Such is the message that he conveys. If you look at the decree, you will see that it bears such a miraculous seal that it cannot in any way be imitated. Everyone, apart from idiots such as yourself, knows of a certainty that the decree is from the king. Everyone, apart from idiots such as yourself, know of a certainty that the decree is from the king. So this commander, whoever is saying this, is employed from the king. It's not coming from him, but it's the king who is saying, hey, look, if you follow whatever the way that you are supposed to be, and you recognize my existence, the mercy that I am endowing, then you will receive this compassion and this bounty. Otherwise, you will suffer within your own selves. So is it at all possible that the teaching of transfer from one realm to another, challengingly conveyed by the noble commander in the supreme edict he has received, should all be open to objection? Is it at all possible that the teaching of transfer from one realm to another, going from this realm to another, challengingly conveyed by that noble commander in the supreme edict he has received, should at all be open to objection? No, it is not possible unless we deny all that we have seen. Now, O friend, it is your turn to speak. Say what you have to say. What should I say? What can be said to contradict all of this? Who can speak against the sun at midday? I say only, praise be to God. 100,000 thanks that I have been saved from the dominance of fancy and vain imagination, and delivered from an eternal dungeon and prison. I have come to believe that there is an abode of felicity in the proximity of the monarch. I have come to believe that there is an abode of felicity in the proximity of the monarch, separate from this confused and impermanent hospice. Our comparison indicating the truth of resurrection and the hereafter is now complete. Now, with God's grace, we will pass on to the most exalted truth. We shall set forth 12 interrelated truths corresponding to the 12 aspects discussed above, as well as an introduction. All right, so I think we can, so far, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think we're all familiar with the topic. So I think we can go on to the introduction. By means of a few indications, we refer here to several matters explained elsewhere. That is in the 22nd word, 19th, and 26th words. So some references. First indication, the foolish man in the previous story and his trustworthy companion correspond to 3 other pairs. So those who have been following these discussions, as you remember, this particular section, 10th word, started with the story of 2 people. One thinks that this world, everything is just free, and he starts taking it, thinking that there's no owner to this universe, whereas the other one was more of recognizing and more of using his consciousness and in the right path. So let's see. So the foolish man, the previous story, and his trustworthy companion correspond to 3 other pairs. So now the author's breaking this down further on some classifications. The instinctual soul and the heart. So we can take that story and relate it to the way our soul and our heart, basically our human feelings and the not so good side of our human side, which, those desires, or it's called the instinctual soul, or it's called nafs in the Arabic. Is it nafs samara, I think, or one of those, yeah. The students of philosophy and the pupils of the all-wise Quran. the people of unbelief and the community of Islam. So the instinctual soul and the heart, that's one side. The students of philosophy, that's one school of thought, philosophy. And the pupils of the all-wise Quran is another way of looking at things, right? So you can think about how the behavior of in that story of the person relates to the students of philosophy, of thinking that there's no owner, let me steal these things and use it for my benefit. Everything is here, why do I even bother? And that's also related to the instinctual soul, students of philosophy, and unbelief, basically. The people of unbelief and the community of Islam. So the idea of what unbelief constitutes and the community of Islam. So we are reading from page 70 on the web link, which is the 10th word, and it's just the introduction, first indication. And this is a topic that is a commentary on the verse, and look at those from chapter room, about looking at the signs. And when you see the signs, you see that they're coming from somewhere, and wondering about it, that, hey, whoever is making all this world, would he not make something similar, another thing like that? Would he not be able to do that? Just questioning and wondering about it. Now, let's see into how the author presents it. Now, the worst error and misguidance of the students of philosophy, the people of unbelief, and the instinctual soul lies in not recognizing God. Just as in the preceding story, the trustworthy man said, "There can be no letter without a scribe, no law without a legislator." We too say the following: a book, particularly one in each word of which a minute pen has inscribed another whole book. A book, particularly one in each word of which a minute pen has inscribed another whole book, and in each letter of which a fine pen has traced a poem. And in each letter of which a fine pen has traced a poem. So you can see how the analogy to a book and this universe is being made. Cannot be without a writer. So if you look at a book, you can't say there's no writer to this. This would be entirely impossible. So too, this cosmos cannot be without its inscriber. So similarly, this cosmos, how can we say that this is something nature we don't know, or we don't even wonder about it? When you see everything that you work on, that maybe you cook something, maybe you write something, or you build something, you know that there's an agent behind it. So this is the thing that the author kind of is hinting that, this is one of the reasons why we may lose ourselves, or the instinctual soul kind of dominates, or the students of philosophy, he calls it, which is something that does not recognize an owner to this world. So similarly, this cosmos cannot be without an inscriber. This is impossible to the utmost degree. For the cosmos is precisely such a book that each of its pages includes many other books. For the cosmos is precisely such a book that each of its pages includes many other books. Each of its words contains a book, and each of its letters contains a poem. The face of the earth is but a single page in the book of the cosmos. See how many books it contains. Every fruit is a letter. Every fruit is a letter, and every seed is a dot. In that dot is contained the index of the whole tree in its vastness. A book such as this can have been inscribed only by the mighty pen of a possessor of glory, who enjoys the attributes of splendor and beauty, and who is the holder of infinite wisdom and power. Faith then follows inevitably on the observation of the world, unless one is drunk on misguidance. So I'll take a pause here and let's hear from Brother Ali. Please take it away, Brother Ali.
Thank you. I think before moving on, we have been reading the comparison between two people. I mean, two individuals representing something. This reminded me a very example of the method that the Quran employs in its descriptions of people in the past, and also the way the Quran gives sometimes examples. There were two people, they had their gardens, and one of them said this, the other one said this. That seems to be very simple, straightforward, okay, it is understandable. But we have to, again, remember that this is an interesting way of analyzing the way this author uses in his writings, and also it is taken from the Quranic method, how to make the people understand the abstract notions in terms of real practical examples. So I understood, and also you said it, although it needed more emphasis on, I understood that when I see two examples in the prophetic, for example, stories mentioned in the Quran, all these two opposite sides, the prophets and their opponents, their enemies, this represents only, as far as I am concerned, my own soul, which means an aggressive soul, egoistic side of myself. And also, at the same time, my own heart, which represents the reality, the truth, because in the Quran says heart, but it means human side of our existence. It means our spirit, which we inherit, we got it or given by our Creator in order to acknowledge Him, in order to get to know Him. So this is within me. And also, as a current ideologies, philosophies, current, it means there are, in fact, not many philosophical theories. There are only mainly two, if you like, trains of thinking. One is trying to understand what is going on in the world within the world itself. Whatever the theories they come up with doesn't matter. For example, this philosophy, that philosophy, doesn't matter. As long as they try to explain the reality of existence or reality of life and what the human beings are expected to do, and what are we really, how are we going to develop our human morality. All sorts of philosophers are based on whether you accept, or the one accepts that I will solve the human problems or existential problems in terms of remaining within the universe, or accepting that this universe, the argument continues about this actually, which one is right, which one is wrong. Accepting the reality that the universe obviously points to the source of its existence, which must be really an absolute being. So we have to be very careful not to get lost into different kinds of explanations, of sophisticated explanations of human side, the problems of society, how to solve the human problems between wife and husband, children, taking care of children, etc. All of them based on these two criteria, whether you are trying to solve the problem within the universe and within yourself, or trying to look for a solution as far as your reality, the reality of existence of the world are concerned. These human beings are created for a purpose by an absolute being. And also, at the same time, where the Quran uses most frequent examples, the people who follow the prophetic message, and on the other side, people who reject the prophetic message. This is what is going on in the world at individual level, at theoretical level, if you like, ideological level, at at the societal level. Both of them are the same principles, following the same principles. Which one do you accept? That is what we have to pay attention while we are studying the Quran, and also appreciate the examples that the author gives in a very simple terms in order to understand what is right and what is wrong for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. Would anybody else want to add anything or say anything? Anybody? All right, I'm asking my friends here also. I think that was a good message, Brother Ali, that you conveyed of how we can start looking at it. Our side, and there's the contrast between either follow the prophetic message or not follow it. I see your hand is still up. Would you like to continue, or?
I didn't mean it, but at the same time, I can say, how are we going to benefit from a prophetic message in our personal life? I think not only an ideology clash or society conflict, but also themselves.
What is? I'm sorry, we lost your voice over there. Not only at the societal level, but where? Individual level?
Yeah, all including. So while we are reading the Quran, we have to be very careful. We shouldn't say that, oh, there were people in Mecca opposing the Prophet, or in and it within yourself, and then relate it to the ideological differences, and then see what is going on in the society. Then you can make analysis of the society as far as the clash, conflict are concerned. Not at a political level, but the fundamental level. That is the important thing we have to pay attention to. All the philosophical or political theories must be boiled down to this fundamental difference. Very simple, two way of thinking, two way of analyzing the cases. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. So two way of thinking, two way of analyzing the worldview that one develops, either this way or that way. Two contradicting philosophies or thoughts or way of looking at something. Okay, so let's continue. Unless somebody wants to comment, please feel free to put it on the chat or raise your hand. Similarly, a house cannot arise without a builder, particularly a house adorned with miraculous works of art, wondrous designs, and amazing ornaments. Particularly a house adorned with miraculous works of art, wondrous designs, and amazing ornaments. As much art has been put into one of its stones as into a whole palace. No intelligence will accept that it could arise without a builder. Definitely, it needs a master architect. No intelligence will accept that it could arise without a builder. Definitely, it needs a master architect. Moreover, within the building, veritable rooms take shape and change each hour with the utmost order and ease. Just as it just as if clothes were being changed, or as if scenes were passing across the cinema screen. We can say even that numerous little rooms are constantly being created in each of those scenes. So this is an interesting palace where at every moment things are changing non-stop, continuously. In like manner, the cosmos also requires an infinitely wise, all-knowing, and all-powerful maker. For the magnificent cosmos is a palace that has the sun and the moon as its lamps and the stars as its candles. For the magnificent cosmos is a palace that has the sun and the moon as its lamps and the stars as its candles. Time is like a rope or ribbon hung within it, on to which the glorious Creator each year threads a new world. And within the world that he thus threads on the string of time, he places 360 fresh and orderly forms. He changes them with the utmost orderliness and wisdom. He has made the face of the earth a bounteous spread that he adorns each spring with 300,000 species of creation that he fills with innumerable kinds of generous gifts. This he does in such a fashion that they all stand apart from each other, quite separate and distinct, despite their being at the same time so close and intermingled. Is it possible to overlook the existence of the maker of such a palace? And yet we do disregard that, questioning this, whoever the maker of this wonderful palace is. Again, to deny the existence of the sun on a cloudless day at noon, when its traces are to be observed and its reflection is to be seen in every bubble on the surface of the ocean, in every shining object on dry land, and in every particle of snow. To make such a denial would be to rave like the deranged. For if one denied and refused to accept the existence of the single, unique sun, he would be compelled to accept the existence of a whole series of minor suns, each real and existent in its own light, as numerous as the drops and bubbles of the ocean, as countless as the particles of snow. So this is how the denying of the existence of the sun what happens, what's the result? Again, to deny the existence of the sun on a cloudless day at noon, when its traces are to be observed and its reflections to be seen in every bubble on the surface of the ocean. So although the reflection, the traces are all over us, we're surrounded by it. In every shining object on dry land and in every particle of snow. To make such a denial would be to rave like the deranged. It's like denying the obvious. For if one denied and refused to accept the existence of the single unique sun, he would be compelled to accept the existence of a whole series of minor suns. So if one denies the existence of the sun, then the other option is to accept the existence of a whole series of minor suns, each real and existent in its own right, as numerous as the drops and bubbles of the ocean, as countless as the particles of snow. It would be necessary to believe that each minute particle contains a huge sun. So this is like how the language of the maybe the scientism goes, that each, as if each particle exists by itself or it has its own power by itself. Even though the particle is large enough only to contain itself. Even though the particle is large enough only to contain itself, it would be an even greater sign of lunacy and misguidance to refuse one's assent to the attributes of perfection of the glorious Creator, even while beholding the well-ordered cosmos that is constantly changing in wise and regular fashion, that is being ceaselessly renewed in disciplined manner. It would be an even greater sign of lunacy and misguidance to refuse one's assent to the attributes of perfection of the glorious Creator. One's assent to the attributes of perfection of the glorious Creator, even when while beholding the well-ordered cosmos that is constantly changing in a wise and regular fashion. That is being ceaselessly renewed in a disciplined manner. This too would be like the ravings of a lunatic, since it would then become necessary to believe and accept that absolute divinity is present in all things, even a particle. For every particle of air is somehow able to enter and work its effects upon every flower, fruit, and leaf, and unless the particle be entrusted with the task by a creator, it must know of itself the structure and form of all the objects it penetrates and affects. In other words, it must possess all-encompassing power and knowledge. So I think this analogy gives a good indication of the two options, the views that Brother Ali was mentioning, and we can keep that in mind while we see how, what was interesting to me is how not seeing the obvious and then leads to a denial, and seeing that, you get involved with just the realm of this world without seeing, the actual owner to this world. And any attribution, anything that happens is because of the thing that you encounter in the world. Oh, it's the fault of this thing. And this is how the human being can fall into, is one of the slopes. And so the author, this sentence, it would be an even greater sign of lunacy and misguidance to refuse one's assent to the attributes of perfection of the glorious Creator. So of course, this is a heavily loaded sentence phrase, but whatever you are engaging with actually is a signpost, as we have mentioned many times. And you are actually being those attributes, those qualities, you're engaging actually with a communication with the one who is the owner of those qualities of perfection. So moving on, every particle of soil is potentially capable of giving rise to all the different seeds that exist. If it is not acting under command, it must contain within itself equipment, and instruments corresponding to all the various trees and plants in the world. Or to put it differently, one must attribute to the particle such artistry and power that it is aware of the structure of each of them, knows the forms that each of them is caused to assume, and is capable of fashioning those forms. The same is true with respect to the particle and other realms of creation. From this, you can understand that in all things there are numerous and manifest proofs of God's unity. In all things there are numerous and manifest proofs of God's unity. To create all things from one thing and to make all things into one thing is a task possible only for the Creator of all things. Pay attention to the sublime declaration. There is naught but proclaims his glory with praise. There's nothing but it proclaims his glory with praise. For if one does not accept God, the one and unique, one must accept gods as numerous as created beings. So this was, I think, the first indication, I would say. Recognizing in whatever you see, you actually are witnessing God's unity. You're seeing all the attributes that you are, whatever you make out of anything is pointing to, you have the option either that thing itself, that is the owner, is the source of that, or you see that, you realize that it's like the analogy of the sun, that is there, but something that we cannot miss. So realize that it is coming from the one who gave existence to that owner, whatever this event, it may be your situation that you go through, it's all set up by the one who owns this universe. Okay, so if anybody wants to speak on the first indication, now is the perfect time. Anything that you would like to go over, anything that you thought we need to discuss a little bit more, please don't be shy. I think we are going well here. So shall we move on to the second indication then? So the second indication, in our story, we made mention of a most noble commander and said that whoever is not blind and sees his decorations and medals will understand that he acts in accordance with the commands of a monarch and is his favored servant. In our story, we made mention of a most noble commander and said that whoever is not blind and sees his decorations and medals will understand that he acts in accordance with the commands of a monarch. Acts in accordance with the commands of a monarch and is his favored servant. Now that most noble commander is the most noble messenger of God. May peace and blessings be upon him. The sacred creator of so ornamented a cosmos must of necessity have a noble messenger, just as the sun must of necessity have light. For the sun cannot exist without giving light. The sacred creator of so ornamented a cosmos, this little things that you are encountering in the universe, they're so meaningful, purposeful, especially now that spring is here. Look at how the buds and the different insects that are coming around, it's all these ornamented things in the universe must of necessity have a noble messenger. just as the sun must of necessity have light. So what is if the sun without any light, what is that then? Just the way the sun necessitates light, so does this universe necessitate somebody who is a spokesperson for the universe as well. Somebody who highlights their presence and gives news of their being created, being here in this universe, a noble messenger. For the sun cannot exist without giving light, and divinity cannot be without showing itself through the sending of prophets. For the sun cannot exist without giving light, and divinity cannot be without showing itself through the sending of prophets. So they go hand in hand. That's how it shows. Just like the sun cannot exist without giving light, the divinity cannot be without showing itself through the sending of prophets. Is it at all possible that a beauty of utter perfection should not desire to manifest itself by means of one who will demonstrate and display it? That's a good question. Is it at all possible that a beauty of utter perfection should not desire to manifest itself by means of one who will demonstrate and display it? Is it at all possible that a perfection of beauteous artistry should not desire to make itself known by means of a herald that will draw men's gazes upon it? Is it at all possible that a perfection of beauteous artistry should not desire to make itself known by means of a herald that will draw men's gazes upon it? Is it at all possible that the universal monarchy of all-embracing dominicality should not desire to announce its unity and eternal besottedness throughout the different levels of multiplicity and particularity by means of an envoy possessing two aspects? Is it all possible that the universal monarchy of all-embracing dominicality should not desire to announce its unity and eternal besottedness throughout the different levels of multiplicity and particularity by means of an envoy possessing two aspects? By the two aspects, we mean that he is both the envoy of the realm of multiplicity to the divine court by virtue of his universal worship. He is both the envoy of the realm of multiplicity to the divine court by virtue of his universal worship, and also the messenger of the divine court to the realm of multiplicity by virtue of his closeness to God and being entrusted with his message. Would anybody like to say anything, or? So we'll continue with the questioning and seeing how these two opinions, either the philosophy or the instinctual soul or the following what the prophetic teaching is, how distinct they are. Is it at all possible that a possessor of infinite inherent beauty should not wish both to behold himself and to display to others in numerous mirrors the charms of his beauty and the allurements of his fairness? Is it all possible that a possessor of infinite inherent beauty should not wish both to behold himself and to display to others in numerous mirrors the charms of his beauty and the allurements of his fairness. God's messenger is his beloved, making himself beloved of him by means of his worship and holding up a mirror to him. And he is also the bearer of his message, making him beloved of men and demonstrating to them the beauty of his names. Okay, we have a question or a comment by a friend here. Go ahead, please.
So I'm trying to see what the author is doing in here. So in the first, because the topic is about resurrection, but so far he has been talking about the creator, not the messenger.
You're right.
So as if he's establishing a background. So he first said, because it looks like resurrection, in order to talk about resurrection, there needs to be some, it's going to build on top of something. Otherwise, it's going to sound very, very distant, very unreasonable or irrelevant. So yeah, definitely there must be a maker of this existence, because I am concerned about another existence or what's going to happen after life. So first, if this one is random, the other one is totally random and speculous. So the first one, the one that I'm now living in, needs to have a wise, all-knowing maker. So, but after establishing that, why is he now making the case with the messenger? Because it might be that, yeah, okay, this creator is, there is a creator, he takes care of everything, but he does his job, I do my job, or as if he's just doing it for free, just giving it away, no expectation from me. But once the messenger comes into the picture, it is as if the creator is saying that, well, maybe you're not aware why I created you in the first place, but there are some. Ideally, you should be also aware, but out of my ignorance, I am unaware. But here is a messenger who understands my purpose, and I am teaching him my purpose of this existence. There is this, you are supposed to be responding back to what your creator is giving to you. So this worship aspect now also comes into the picture, because yeah, I have been provided and supported since I was born, but I might take it like a spoiled child would take it for granted. Yeah, as if I have to receive air. I mean, it has to be given to me. But what am I supposed to do in response? Yeah, if somebody tells me that, say please, then I'm going to give it to you, then maybe I will realize what the importance is. But the creator is not asking for that either. I keep getting the breathe since I was born. I might get neglectful and ignorant. But a real human would realize that, well, even if he does not explicitly ask for the thanks, then I'm obliged to do something. So messenger is someone who in the first place, he himself realized that need for response, and he responded back. And the creator is setting him as an example for the rest of us, saying that your existence in here is not pointless. You have a duty in this existence, and take this person as an example. Because once this is established, then I start realizing that there's a constant communication that was supposed to exist between me and my maker. Then end of my life becomes a cut for that. So this is why an eternal life becomes necessary even more after I established the relationship with my creator as the messenger was doing. Like the creator gives me something and I respond back. So once it's a two-way communication, then death becomes bigger of a problem. And I would say, why would my creator want to end this conversation? We were having a very lovely conversation with him for the, let's say, 70, 80 years. We are like the best of friends now with my creator. And I would love to be in a longer conversation with my creator. And I don't see any reason why my creator wouldn't like having conversation with me. So this, after the worship, the message and the worship that is brought with the example of messenger is really making a very solid background for the resurrection. Now it becomes more reasonable, more clear, and more acceptable to say that yes, there indeed must exist an eternal life. But without the worship aspect of it, it sounds very single-dimensional, as if I want to live eternally. And again, I'm only the one who keeps receiving but never offering thanks. I say, well, I am given this desire for eternal life.
Yeah.
Even if I accept the first introduction here about the creator, yeah, there is a giver, so he should give me more. But for what? There is no conversation. I'm only at the recipient end, and I'm not responding back, although this is part of my humanity. So this is why I guess the prophethood with the message plus worship fits into that picture very beautifully. This might be the reason that the author is bringing this up.
Good points. Thank you, Yusuf, for sharing that. So, yeah, if I can try to summarize that, as Yusuf was explaining. So when you look at the universe, yeah, you're always benefiting from it, you're engaging with it, and you want more and more. And then you can realize, yeah, there is this owner behind you, but you know, the universe doesn't tell you much anyway. It's just, you're always receiving it. But the way this setup, you know, whoever made this universe also made sure that, hey, you know, part of my engagement is not just always one way. It's not always on the receiving, but I communicate back. I have this option, and this envoy is serving that purpose. So for me to reorient my human side and engage again to what a true human being has to be and communicate back to my Lord or my source of existence, who is making me who gave me existence and allowing me to experience this existence along with the rest of the universe. So it seems very appropriate. For example, if it could be like a school and then you don't have any teachers. So all this school is just an institution, but you go there and, you know, just self-study. You can't go much. You need somebody who can guide you. You need some counselors. You need a structure. You need there's like an infrastructure organization that is required. So all that, as for a human being, is not left just with the universe. There must be additional support at other venues for the human being to acquaint himself, get back on his human side. I'm sure you had much more. If you want to add, you can go ahead. So anybody else would like to add anything or state anything?
I like the emphasis on, after building all of this intimate relationship, like it wouldn't make sense to build such an intimate relationship to end it. But once you build an intimate relationship, the next stage is to take it to a different level, into like an eternal level. So that, like, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, good point, actually. So once I start acquainting myself, and it becomes a habit of mine to recognize that whatever happens, you know, I mean, I'm already in communication with my Lord, whichever, this existence, next existence, whatever it is, it's, you know, there's no worry about it. It's already, you know, I'm in good hands.
Yeah, I think it's like a gradual development to anything that we learn. So just starting with the basic, and as you augment in your education, there's a need for more guidance, like what everybody else was emphasizing. And with that comes the need of really, what am I to do with this existence, and what does it actually all point to? Otherwise, it can then even later on become meaningless as well. So definitely this ongoing guidance, connecting me to the purpose of this existence, should be there in a concrete way, in a way that I learn as a human being. because I think like what everybody else emphasized, we learn from teachers, we learn from others who are experts and others who have reached also a certain level of understanding and ascertaining the different aspects of this existence.
Yeah. And thank you. And there's a comment. Somebody says, our relation, oh yeah, Alia says, our relation on earth is veiled. Once we develop intimacy with the source of existence, our relation in the hereafter is unveiled. Thank you for that summarizing. Yeah, that intimacy, as you kind of mentioned as well in your comment, that is how our relationship with our source of existence can become. It's not something alien anymore, but more, friendly and intimate. Thank you for the comments. And if anybody has any final comments before we close for today, and we can pick up from this last two paragraphs next time, inshallah. Thank you, everyone. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.